And so it was that two lost souls found themselves walking side by side through the winding heart of the dark forest, where the lines between light and shadow blurred, and the trees kept every secret that had ever been whispered beneath them. Now, Nymera was not unaffected by the forest. The dark forest carried a curse, Elarion's curse, and it pressed against her like a cold hand at her back with every step she took deeper in. But Nymera was not an ordinary creature. She was something the world had not quite seen before, a fusion of demon and fairy, two forces that should have cancelled each other out, and instead had made something entirely new. That energy pulsed within her, like a second heartbeat, warm and fierce and stubborn. It was the only thing standing between her and the full weight of Elarion's sinister curse. And for now, it held. She walked with Elarion, steady and unhurried, Aelin trailing behind with watchful eyes. Days became weeks. The forest rustled around them, ancient and listening, as if it too was curious about what would happen next. Now, Elarion was not easy company. He was sharp-tongued and cold, prone to cruelty that was more habit than heart. But Nymera met every harsh word with quiet patience, and she never stopped looking at him, as if she could already see who he was becoming, not just who he had been. One evening, as they walked a moonlit path, Elarion stopped. He turned to her, something uncomfortable shifting behind his glowing eyes.
Why do you tolerate my cruelty, Nymera?
Because I see beyond the darkness. I see the person you can become.
You're a fool, Nymera. No matter how hard you try, you can't change who I am.
But the forest, with its sentient presence, seemed to resonate with Nymera's unyielding belief. The air whispered secrets. The trees bore witness, and Aelin watched with knowing eyes. As the days passed, something else was happening, something quieter and more frightening. Nymera's energy had begun to wane. The curse's effects had grown stronger, pressing harder against that fierce inner light that kept her going. She was tired in a way that sleep could not fix. Yet her determination remained unshaken. She was drawn to Elarion's enigmatic presence, to the puzzle of his existence that she was determined to solve. And Elarion, though he could not have named what he was feeling, was changing. Not all at once, not with any single grand moment, but in the small, quiet spaces, between harsh words and stolen glances. He found himself captivated by her spirit, the curiosity that drove her to explore even the darkest corners of his being. He found himself softening. One day, with a crack in his voice he couldn't quite hide, he asked her,
Nymera, do you ever tire of my darkness?
Your darkness is just a small part of you, Elarion. I see the light, struggling to break free.
As their journey continued, Nymera's feelings for Elarion deepened. It was no longer just the forest that bound her to him. It was something she had not planned for and could not undo. A genuine connection, a love that had grown quietly, like something green and stubborn pushing up through stone. And Elarion, too, found himself drawn to her presence in ways he could no longer dismiss. Her kindness had chipped away, at the darkness encasing his heart, and the warmth that filled the space left behind was something he had not felt in a very long time. One fateful evening, as the moon cast long silver shadows across the forest floor, Elarion's internal battle reached its turning point. He stood before her, and there was something raw and open in his face, the face of someone who has run out of walls.
Nymera, your love, it's changing me. I can feel the darkness receding, as if your light is breaking through.
Nymera's eyes shimmered with tears. Her smile was radiant. She reached out and took his hand.
Love has a power beyond even the darkest magic, Elarion. It can heal wounds that seemed irreversible.
Now the sinister spirit had been watching all of this, and it did not like what it saw. Its influence over Elarion's malevolence had weakened with every day Nymera stayed, and its plan, its careful, patient plan, to consume Nymera's heart and soul, had begun to unravel, thwarted by the very emotion it had never thought to fear, love. But the spirit had not given up. It sought a chink in Nymera's armor, a shadow within her heart that it could slip into. What it found instead was Elarion's love wrapped around her, like a shield, his kindness, his care, the warmth he had finally allowed himself to feel, a barrier that even the most insidious magic could not yet breach. Their bond grew stronger. Their days became a mosaic of exploration and introspection, and a love that defied the odds. Aelin guided them still, wise and watchful, and Nymera pressed on, tired in her bones, the curse heavier with every passing week, but held together by something the curse had not accounted for, by him. But a sense of foreboding had settled over the forest. The sinister spirit's desperation was driving it to darker plans. The trees themselves seemed to feel it, a lurking presence, coiling in the oldest shadows, patient and cold, and waiting for its moment, because the spirit had lived long enough to know that every shield has a seam, and it only needed one.